Now, we deal with narratives here. I'm not an all 22 tape head type of guy. We do talk X's and O's around here, but I'm more of a narrative.
You're a storyteller, Rich.
I tell stories.
What you do?
Actually, I weave tapestries.
Come on, man.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
Verbally. Not literally. I don't loom. What do I know? Well, I loom in terms of rearview mirrors of people that we compete with.
That's a fact.
Or they see our asses and elbows as we run past them here on the Infinity Sports Network. But that's for another day.
You are synonymous with a 40.
And another show. We deal with narratives here. And the narrative for the Detroit Lions has changed quite a bit. Used to be, they've got no chance. We all know since Dan Campbell came into being as the HC in Detroit, Michigan. Things have changed. We understand that. The narrative this year is they're going to take a step forward, make it to the Super Bowl. I put my chip down on that narrative prior to the season, saying the Lions were my pick to win the NFC. So I was all in on it. And then they lose week 2 to Tampa, the team that they vanquished to make to the NFC Championship game last year. They're 1-1, and a lot of narratives going around that maybe they're not the team. And then the narrative came to be, oh, they're the team. They're the team to beat. While the Minnesota Vikings were 5-0, and they lose 2 in a row in the span of 5 days, and suddenly Detroit, after beating Minnesota to start that mini 2-game losing streak for Minnesota, they went into first place until just last night when it was all on the line and the narrative had changed for Detroit that they were no longer the team to beat because they had gotten beaten down to a pulp by the injury football gods. Too many top-notch defenders on injured reserve for the Detroit Lions to actually go ahead and finish what they had started in the most prolific, successful regular season in the history of the franchise. Too many defenders lost. And instead, when that narrative truly came home to roost, when they lost a handful more in a home loss to the Bills, that is exactly the narrative crystallized, despite them winning every game since they lost to the Bills. And the narrative in the middle of the season, Jared Goff throwing 5 interceptions, and they still beat the Texans. They're lucky. How is he going to respond? How did 19 touchdowns and 1 interception since that game going into Sunday Night Football? How did that roost in your world? They lost too many players on defense, everyone was saying. They're going to have to win 40-30, everyone was saying. And for those new to us on the Infinity Sports Network, I was one of those people. We talked about it on NFL Game Day Morning quite a bit. They're going to have to win 40-30. Kirby Joseph came up with 2 interceptions against the 49ers. That's what you're going to have to do. Put up 40, come up with us. Just just one stop here or there. Because they're going to have to win 40-30. And then came last night, when the Detroit Lions defense snapped the Minnesota Vikings 9-game winning streak and snapped them right in half, thanks to, in large part, their defense, holding Minnesota to a season-low 9 points. First time Minnesota scored fewer than 10 points in a game since Week 14 of last year. And then, it's not just what they were doing from snap 1 to snap last. Minnesota moved the ball. Not 1, but 2 drives that they stopped when Minnesota was on the Detroit 3-yard line. Oh, my goodness. Talk about a narrative flipper. That said, the narrative for the Detroit Lions now for years is exactly the Detroit Lions team that showed up last night, and the word is a 4-letter word. And I'm not talking about the ones that have to continually get bleeped or silenced out of all of the Lions' social media videos from their victorious locker room. The word is grit. That's it. Grit. A word associated with the city. And that's exactly what Dan Campbell tried to say inartfully in his opening press conference as the head coach of the Detroit Lions. Grit. And isn't it amazing that the running back known as Sonic provided the knuckles too. I was targeting Jahmyr Gibbs as the offensive player of the year going into the season. That's how much I was buying into the Lions narrative. Now, Gibbs is not going to be that. That'll be Saquon or Jamar Chase. Derrick Henry will be in that mix. But 4 scrimmage touchdowns for Jahmyr Gibbs last night, 3 on the ground, 1 in the air, including 1 in the air on a 4th down. 20 touchdowns from scrimmage to lead the NFL. The last Lions player to lead the NFL in scrimmage touchdowns. You all know the answer, even though you might not think you do. Go for it. Say it. Say it.
Emmitt Smith.
Nope. The last Lion to do it.
Oh, last line. I missed that part.
Barry Sanders.
Bingo.
My bad. I missed the line part.
1991. Jahmyr Gibbs doing Barry Sanders stuff, and Goff doing stuff that we have not seen before. 15 wins by a quarterback for a team that did not draft him. That was also up for grabs last night, by the way. That record, along with the NFC North and NFC conference as a whole in the 1 seed. Whoever won last night would have set that record. Sam Darnold or Goff. Goff now has it. First time since CD began and since 1975 that the Lions are the 1 seed, and that is all that matters. It now goes through Detroit, the path to the Super Bowl for the National Football Conference. Somebody's going to have to go into Detroit and go into a Ford Field that is lit up like the proverbial gas can and knock off this team. Good luck if they're going to play defense like that. Because at some point, they're going to score their points. And even on a night where Goff had its 3rd worst passer rating of 2024, which is, by the way, only a passer rating of 80. That's how insane a year he's had. They still pop the 30 burger because all they have to do is just keep wearing you down and wearing you down because they have one of the best offensive lines in the business. And now they've got Alex Anzalone back on defense. And now Big Z, Zadarius Smith, that midseason pickup, making plays. And now the Lions are maybe putting it together. Look out. That's the message. That's the narrative. They did pull it off. They did have the best regular season in the history of the Lions, and they aren't the first ever 14-win road-tripping super wildcard weekend team. That's now the Minnesota Vikings. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.